وسهلا بكل الذين ينضموا للاستماع إلى راديو بلدي أول راديو عربي أمريكي ويعنى بقضايا العرب في المهجر. برامجنا في راديو بلدي كل يوم جمعة من 8 وحتى 9 صباحا مع ليلى الحسيني في بث حي ومباشر عبر WNZK راديو 690 AM. صباح الخير بلدي، صباح الخير لكل مستمعينا.
Welcome to Radio Baladi, the first Arab, Middle Eastern, and American simulcast radio show. Radio Baladi is broadcast every Friday morning on WNZK 690 AM from 8 until 9 Eastern Time on Good Morning Michigan with Layla Al-Husseini. Our call-in number 248-557-3300. And now, stay tuned for the best radio talk show on Arab and American issues with your host, Layla Al-Husseini.
This is Dr. Sahar Khamis. Join me on the third Friday of each month at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be discussing some of the most important current political, economic, and social issues in my program, The Bridge. On Radio Baladi, on America's Voice of the Arabs, WNZK 690 AM and WDMV 700 AM. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the show, another great program on Radio Baladi on US Arab Radio. Our topic today is very timely and it's on everybody's mind. Faith in a time of fear, spirituality, and coping with the coronavirus crisis. With me this morning, great spiritual leaders who are going to share their insight with all of us. Father William A, also known as Father Bill. He is the pastor of the Shrine of Sacred Heart Church in Baltimore, Maryland. He received his Ph.D. in history from Catholic University in Washington, D.C. He worked with Imam Muhammad Bashar Arafat in the Center for Exchange of Civilizations for the past 10 years. And also he is on the advisory board of Al-Bashir Center with Imam Muhammad Bashar Arafat. He's been very active in interfaith relations in that capacity and in other capacities as well. My second esteemed guest, Rabbi Julie Gordon, is the rabbi educator at Hill Havurah, the only synagogue on Capitol Hill. She has been a rabbi for the last 36 years, serving congregations and working with Jewish communities and Jewish educational institutions for many, many years. She's also very active in the interfaith movement as a member of the Sisterhood of Salaam Shalom organization and other interfaith groups. My third esteemed guest is Imam Tarif Shraim. He is the Imam of the Islamic Community Center of Potomac, Maryland. He is the Muslim chaplain at the University of Maryland. Over the past 2 decades, he provided mentorship and coaching to Muslim college students and community members in many places. He is also performing this great role through being the co-founder and executive director of the Center for Muslim Life in Maryland. Welcome to the show, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules and joining me today for this conversation to really provide much needed guidance and advice and insight in your own capacity as great spiritual leaders. And I'll start with you, Rabbi Julie. And when I called you yesterday to invite you to the show, you asked me a question. You said, Sahar, how are you doing? And I think this was a great question because we really need to check on each other and see how each one of us is doing during this very difficult time. So before I start talking about your role as spiritual leaders within your own faith communities, I want to start with the personal first. The personal. You as a person, Rabbi Julie, what did you find to be some of the useful tips for you as an individual, as a person, during this difficult time of crisis to cope effectively during these uncertain times?
Sahar, it's great to hear your voice. I'm looking forward to being with you and our sisters tomorrow night, virtually, of course.
Yes.
And so for me, when a group of rabbis have been discussing spiritual responses, and someone suggested that we should not use the word social distancing, we should use the word physical distancing. And for me, that is very profound. We need our social connections. We need, whether it's picking up the phone whether it's I have 2 children, thank God, that live here, and while they won't come and visit me, when I made challah for Shabbat and brought it to them, at an appropriate physical distance, we were able to connect. And that is what is helping me at this time, in addition to other spiritual resources, which I know we will talk about during the course of our conversation.
I love this. Physical distancing, but not social distancing. So we don't feel we are quote unquote isolated. This is very important, and words matter indeed. Thank you so much. And Father Bill?
Yes, it's good to be here with you again, Sahar.
Thank you so much.
Obviously, I experience it as a person the same way everybody else is, and I find it's very disorienting and very isolating time, and it's a time first of all, on the spiritual level, follow some of my own sermonic advice and realize that, if you're a control freak like I am and you like to have your life in order, that there's a time where you have to embrace the challenge of surrendering to God, that this is out of my control and I have to surrender and trust and go with the flow. And an important part of that going with the flow is what you were just discussing, of not allowing myself to be socially isolated, even though physically I kind of am here, that keeping in touch with friends and seeing how they're doing, but also having them call me, and breaking that sense of isolation and being able to surrender one's need to be in control at this point is sort of key for me to keep from giving into depression or a sense of despair, which these kind of times tend to impose on people.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And Imam Tarif?
Well, thanks, Dr. Sahar, first for hosting all of us. We're really inspired by all the work that you do. It impacts us, far and close. So this has been a very challenging period, and we're all going through it. And I'm just trying to pay attention, honestly, in these times of uncertainty and difficulty, to my own response mentally and emotionally, because I see myself straying into these areas of stress, anxiety, and even fear. And I challenge myself to just pause and pay attention to my thoughts, because we realize that thoughts, which, we're ultimately are in control of, and we have an incredible spiritual tradition to draw from, to reframe the story and the thoughts in our heads, which ultimately impact our emotions. I just ask myself to pay attention to my thoughts and understand the contagion that it can produce. Just as the virus is a contagion and it can ripple out, I'm just paying attention to my own thoughts, and I'm trying to ground them in the fundamental teachings that, we've learned all, throughout our past. And I said to myself, here comes an opportunity, a challenge, a test for me personally, even, and for my family, to bring out the best of those beliefs and actually practice them in terms of hope, in terms of trust, in terms of surrender, in terms of realizing I'm not in control, and that it's okay to live with uncertainty and fear.
This is great insight from all three of you. And let me tell you, as a communication professor, I've been monitoring what people have been exchanging on social media platforms. The messages are obviously very important. And what I've seen the most is, like, number one, medical misinformation. And number two, spiritual messages that are centered around fear. And number three, a lot of jokes and humor. But for the purpose of this show, in particular, this program, I'm going to focus on the second one. A lot of people are interpreting this like, oh my God, is God angry with us? Is God upset with us? Is this some form of quote-unquote punishment? These terms have been circulating a lot in a lot of networks on social media. How can we interpret such a message, this kind of massive, pandemic that's really putting the whole world on hold? How can we interpret this? There's definitely a message. Bill Gates said, there is always a message. He sees that there's a spiritual message to everything, whether we perceive it to be good or bad. And I agree with him. But what is your own reading of this message? I'll start with you, Rabbi Julie.
I'm a proud, progressive, liberal Jew, and I don't think in terms of God as a angry or a God that punishes us. For me, God is the source of values to draw upon to become better people and better members of our society. And so for me, I draw on values of Havurah, for example, which is the Hebrew word for courage, and ahava, love, and caring, those come, for me, those values come from God, from every tradition's search for a connection with God to create a spiritual path that works for their tradition. Mm-hmm. And for me as a Jew, looking at our tradition for guidance, and in particular right now I'm really focusing on courage. How can I not become overwhelmed with all that is unknown, but rather draw upon my courage to reach out to people that are in need.
This is wonderful. Thank you so much. And Father Bill, if I was to ask you the same question, how do you interpret or decode this kind of message?
Well, first of all, I would also reject the whole idea of this as some sort of judgment from God. That's not the God I believe in or worship. And in our spiritual tradition and the scriptural tradition, I think it's important to remember that the opposite of faith is not unbelief, it's fear. You notice whenever in the scriptural tradition an angel of the Lord comes to someone with a message, the first thing they say is, fear not. Because until you overcome fear, you can't hear the word of God. And in his own ministry, Jesus was constantly admonishing his friends, fear is useless. What is needed is faith. And St. John's writings say that love casts out all fear, that basically fear and love cannot cohabitate in the human heart. One or the other is going to win. And what I hope that we can do is see this as a time of spiritual challenge to not just deal with this time as a time of coping with a threatening negative reality, but to make it a time of a positive affirmation of what's most important in our lives, to affirm the love and the faith that gives life meaning and purpose and gives us the strength to struggle on when the familiar routines and structures of daily life fall apart. Because in the end, that's all we really have. And so with that kind of affirmation of what's most important in our faith and in our love, we can rebuild the world every time it falls apart. And that's what we human beings are constantly called to do, because in one way or another, on one level or another, the world's always falling apart. And we have to put it back together again. And I think that's what we're challenged to do now.
This is wonderful. And I like this whole point of faith is the opposite of, of fear, and fear is the opposite of faith. And we should really use our faith to get rid of our fear at this difficult time. And Imam Tarif, if you want to share your insight on this same point, please.
Sure. I'm a father. I have 2 children. They're twins. And I think of myself managing my own children in this difficult life. We want our children to grow and live through different experiences to grow and become better. So for me, the way I see this is similar to a father, having to raise his children. Father, God Almighty in his mercy and his compassion reaches down with his powerful reminders to bring us up, to remind us of what is important. Pain is not a bad thing necessarily. Pain is a catalyst for growth. Hardships are part of life, and that's what we learn in our spiritual tradition, that it's never been promised to be an easy path, but that within that path of hardship and struggle and pain is an opportunity for growth, opportunity for connecting to our priorities and the ultimate truth that we might have forgotten about, opportunity to restore balance in places of imbalance, and ultimately, I would say, even discovery of oneself. How do we find out that we're resilient, that we're strong, except in periods of hardship and difficulties like this?
This is wonderful. This is wonderful. Thank you all so much for this great insight. We'll come back to this very interesting discussion right after this commercial break. Stay tuned, please.
Rahma Worldwide Aid and Development provides humanitarian aid in several countries, especially in areas inside Yemen, Gaza, Syria, Lebanon, and Jordan, in addition to others in Africa and around the world. Rahma Worldwide provides food baskets, container shipment, medical supplies, mental health care, education, orphan sponsorship, soup kitchens, and more. Go to rahmarelief.org or call 248-990-4247. Any amount donated to Rahma Worldwide will go to sustaining many lives. Call now, 248-990-4247.
إلي ساعة عم بستناك مشان نروح نتغدى بالشام.
الشام؟
إيه بالشام ومو بالشام.
شلون صارت هي؟
بدل ما نروح نتغدى بالشام
إيه
جابوا لنا الأكلات الشامية الطيبة لعنا لهم.
وشلون بقى؟
هذا مطعم دمس عم يعمل كل الأكلات الشامية الطيبة هو
طيبة؟
طيبة كتير.
شاركوا نتغدى سوا بمطعم دمس.
الأكل الشامي الأصيل فقط بدمس كوزين. زوروهم على 28841 أورشارد ليك بفارمينغتون هيلز، ولطلباتكم اتصلوا على 248-987-4609. That's 248-987-4609. دمس كوزين and catering، جبنا لكم الشام لعندكم.
When it comes to reproductive medicine, IVF Michigan Fertility Centers are the recognized leaders. With locations in Bloomfield Hills and 5 other cities in Michigan and Ohio, IVF has experts in all aspects of the field. As a founding member of IVF Michigan Fertility Centers, Dr. Nicholas Shama is one of the leading reproductive endocrinologists in Michigan and Ohio. Dr. Shama has performed over 10,000 IVF cases and has helped thousands of couples fulfill their dreams of parenthood. American board certified in both obstetrics and gynecology and reproductive endocrinology and infertility, Dr. Nicholas Shama is a very caring, compassionate, expert physician that understands not only the medical but also the emotional toil of infertility on his patients. When it's time, get personalized care from Dr. Nicholas Shama at IVF Michigan Fertility Centers in Michigan and Ohio. Call toll-free 855-952-9600, 855-952-9600.
Kashat's Mediterranean Market and Shish Kebab offers a great array of your favorite Mediterranean meals. Meals range from lamb specialties, shawarma sandwiches, seafood dinners, and they offer special big trays of your favorite food, plus much more. Kashat's Mediterranean Market and Shish Kebab address is 32839 Northwestern Highway in Farmington Hills. Their phone number is 248-538-9552. That number again is 248-538-9552. And the supermarket is open from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. Kashat's Mediterranean Market and Shish Kebab will definitely leave you satisfied.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. This is your host, Dr. Sahar Khamis, and we're discussing today a very important and timely topic: faith in a time of fear, spirituality, and coping with the coronavirus crisis. And with me this morning discussing this topic are Rabbi Julie Gordon and Father William A. and Imam Tarif Shraim, sharing their insight as great spiritual leaders from different faith traditions. Now let's focus from the personal to the community level. What have you found to be some useful and particularly helpful tips in terms of trying to reach out to your own faith community and trying to make sure that people are, safe, sound, able to take care of their own spirituality, able to, really be able to cope with this kind of crisis in an effective and really useful and productive way? Rabbi Julie, I want to start with you, please.
It would be helpful if you could synthesize that question again.
Yes, basically, how are we able to reach out to your own particular faith tradition, your own community, the community that your congregation, the people who are, you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis? I know in your own capacity, you are the, the educator, the rabbi educator at Hill Havurah. How are you able to cope and how are you able to help your own community members, your own congregation, to deal with this difficult time in particular?
There are several things that we're doing and many other communities are doing. Thank God for Zoom. And that platform is providing both opportunities for people, most of all, to see each other and hear each other and learn with each other and to pray with each other. And so right now, whether it is that I observe Shabbat by having services and study with my community, whether it's right now I'm setting up Zoom classes for my children and Zoom story time for our preschool children, maintaining opportunities to study together, to celebrate, to sing together is what keeps our hearts open.
This is beautiful. This is beautiful. Like a lot of activities centered around art and music and culture, which is really a great coping mechanism. Wonderful. And Father Bill?
Yeah, this is certainly a very challenging situation. It's the first time, sort of my lifetime, that we're facing the fact that we will not be able to gather in church to celebrate Holy Week services and Easter. And we're trying to make the best of the other virtual ways of communication. I've been sending out several letters to the congregation. We have a website. We're encouraging people to check on it. It has links to the Archdiocese where they can watch live stream televised masses. I just this week began, we got with the help of some parishioners to videotape sermons for the feast days coming up that we can put on our website for people to hear what I would have said to them if they could come to church, as well as, prayers they can do at home. And also we're trying to set up with virtual meetings with our parish council. We're in the process of trying to do that and see if we can, we have an email list. We contact people and we're trying to maybe even get a phone tree together to have people check in. So we're trying to explore all the options of how we can overcome the social distance to keep in touch with each other.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Thank you so much. And Imam Tarif?
Well, similarly, in our case, it's a period of discovery. And it's interesting that many people might have been looking negatively sometimes at technology, but here's an opportunity to be grateful for technology and all these incredible platforms that we might not have utilized. So we're similarly trying to set up virtual meetings within our community, record sermons, talks, deliver that content electronically to our listservs, and also invite the community to join us in prayer, even though it's virtual, to study together, to pray together, to really use that time to hear each other's voices and see each other's faces, even if it's virtual. We're also trying to set up phone banks. That's one thing that we might be neglecting while we're trying to pay attention to ourselves and our needs. Just to, come up with a list of 10 people that we can call daily to just check on. And the power of that is incredible when people hear someone else calling them to check on them. So those are some of the examples that we're, the types of things that we're trying to do these days. And we realize there's more to discover and practice in the coming weeks.
This is all great, but you know what? I'm going to push back a little bit on this point of connectivity because, in the spiritual realm in particular, and I'm sure I'm not alone in this, a lot of people feel like if I'm not really there, present in the moment with my own congregation, like, in the case of myself as a practicing Muslim, not being able to go to the Friday prayers, physically in the mosque, or, seeing even the Umrah, the mini pilgrimage suspended to Mecca, is a very difficult and painful thing. I mean, can we really think of this loss of being together physically in the moment? Is this a double-edged sword? Is it a blessing? Is it otherwise? How do we see this? And how can really technology, as much as you, all three of you explained, can it really fill this kind of void? I mean, this is something that I'm myself grappling with. Imam Tarif, you want to share that, please?
Sure. It's a struggle. Ultimately, it's a struggle. And I think part of the interpretation of this for me personally is that this state of being quarantined is what we call the Arabic khalwa, right? To be in a seclusion as well and pay attention to some of the priorities and the concerns that we might have neglected in the realm of spiritual work and pastoral care. We forget about ourselves sometimes and providing even self-care and even to our own families. And that depletes us emotionally and spiritually. We sometimes even neglect the time with God on our own. So I'm looking at this also as an opportunity to reconnect with some of the lost priorities that I might not have paid attention to before. It's a difficult thing to juggle. Ultimately, we have a responsibility towards our communities. We have to pay attention to their needs. They're looking for leadership in these days. They are confused and uncertain. But I see it, as I said, as an opportunity for me, as you said, Dr. Sahar, to really reconnect with my own, even home, with my own children and spend more time with them and with myself.
Excellent. And Father Bill, you want to share some insight on this point particularly?
Yes, I mean, you're absolutely right, Sahar, that the virtual ways of trying to connect are no substitute for what we're missing. And as I said in one of the communications I sent out to our parish family, that this is a sense of loss that we can't gather together to celebrate the central mysteries of our faith with the liturgies that are so important to us and so moving to us. And but every experience, including this experience, can be embraced in prayer. And I think it has to be embraced as the experience of loss and how we respond to loss. And I think it's a time, as some of your other guests were saying, we have to affirm our belief in the spiritual connectedness we have with God in times of loss and with one another, and to see appreciate and incorporate our appreciation for what we have in our ability to come together in communal celebrations, and to reaffirm our need for each other. And so this time of loss can be a time of reaffirming our faith and our determination to reconnect as soon as we can, but to stay connected now in prayer.
Excellent, excellent. And Rabbi Julie?
I'm going to share a personal example of the power of Zoom as a way to connect us. This past Thursday night, began the 6th Gertzeit, the 6th anniversary of the death of my mother of blessed memory.
May her memory always be a blessing for you and your family.
Thank you very much. And our tradition is to gather at least 10 people together and have a service and light a candle, which lasts more than 24 hours. And so I gathered and sent out messages to my friends and family all over the country, and including Israel and Mexico. And we had 25 people on my everyone's Zoom screen, praying the evening service together. And I was we say in Yiddish, verklempt. I mean, I was so overcome with emotion seeing my loved ones, who, if we would have had regular life, I would have had 10 good friends, or I would have gone to a synagogue and been with people I know and a lot of people I didn't know. I was totally surrounded and supported and loved as we were praying together and asking for God's strength together.
This is wonderful. What I'm hearing from all three of you is that basically we can see this as an opportunity, right? We can see it as an opportunity to connect more deeply with God as individuals, and also rethink our priorities in life and find alternative ways to effectively cope with this difficult time. So I really find this very inspiring. We'll come back to this very interesting discussion right after this commercial break. Stay tuned, please.
Life is a nonprofit charity that's provided humanitarian aid and development to people and communities for over 25 years, regardless of race, color, religion, or cultural background. When disaster occurs here or around the world, Life for Relief and Development rushes in to provide food, medical aid, and shelter to those in need. Please help improve these efforts. Make your tax-deductible donation to Life now at lifeusa.org or call 248-424-7493.
مرحبا سعيد.
أهلا علا.
ليش هالمقابلة الفاترة هي؟ بيقول المثل لاقيني ولا تغديني.
يمه زعلتي، شنو رأيك إذا لقيتك وأيضا غديتك بأحسن مطاعم ميشيغان، مطعم عشتار؟
والله فكرة، أفضل الأطباق والمقبلات العربية والعراقية وأحلى ملقا.
ولا تنسين اللحوم الطازجة مباشرة من ملحمة عشتار لزباين عشتار، وملحمة عشتار توفر اختيارات متنوعة من كافة أنواع اللحوم وبأسعار متميزة وجودة أيضا مميزة. ملحمة عشتار تقع على 36865 راين رود في مدينة ستيرلينغ هايت.
وأكيد أحلى لمة وأطيب لقمة في مطعم عشتار اللي عنوانه 3625 15 مايل رود في مدينة ستيرلينغ هايت. هاتف 586-698-2585 586-698-2585.
يلا علا،
يلا عشتار، للجودة وكرم الضيافة عنوان
مطعم عشتار.
When you're looking for the best in optical care, Dr. Imad Nakash is your doctor to see. With years of experience and thousands of successful procedures performed, you can trust your eyes to Dr. Imad Nakash. See Dr. Imad Nakash and his professional staff for your eye care needs. There's 2 locations to serve you. In Hazel Park, call 248-336-3937. 248-336-3937. In Rochester Hills, call 248-299-3937. That's 248-299-3937.
If halal is important to your family, you can trust that Miramar will offer not only the highest quality halal products, but the best tasting and healthiest foods that can be placed on your family table with confidence. Miramar is the first and oldest halal certified food brand in America, serving the Arab and Muslim community, and offers a wide range of halal food products. Check out Miramar's halal food selection today by visiting Miramar's exclusive distributor, Ziad Brothers Importing at www.ziad.com.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. This is your host, Dr. Sahar Khamis, and we're talking today about the topic which is on everybody's mind: faith in a time of fear, spirituality, and coping with the coronavirus crisis. And with me this morning are three great spiritual leaders who are sharing their insight with our listeners today: Rabbi Julie Gordon, and Imam Tarif Shraim, and Father William O. All right, so now I want to talk about the specific demographics of your own congregations. Obviously, each one of you is working with different demographics, different groups that are having specific needs. We talked broadly speaking about your personal experience. We talked broadly speaking about your congregations and connecting with your congregations, but I also know that each one of you is working with a different demographic. For example, Rabbi Julie, I know that you're working with young people, especially like maybe children, as an educator at Hill Havurah. Can you tell me, for example, what would be some of the specifically, useful and effective and productive techniques and strategies to use, particularly with children? And what did you find to work with this particular demographic?
Sahar, thank you so much for bringing us all together for this important conversation. As you know, I am very social and like to talk, and so I decided I was going to call all my families in our preschool and not only talk to the parents, but offer to talk with the children. And that has been very powerful to hear their voice, for them to hear my voice, and to share that love that is between us. The other things that we're doing is creating virtual story time and lighting Shabbat candles together. And these opportunities to play and learn and celebrate with each other, knowing that our caring continues, our support for each other continues, in spite of the fact that we're all struggling with this terrible virus and physical distancing.
This is beautiful. Thank you so much. And you mentioned before music and singing. I find these to be also very, really inspiring strategies as well. Father Bill, you want to talk about your specific congregation, the demographics of your particular congregation, and what really works for them the best?
Well, we have a very diverse community here. We're about 60% Filipino immigrant population, mostly educators or people in the medical field. And the other 40% are likewise very diverse ethnically, racially. It's what I love about the parish is that it is so diverse, and very much that's why it is sort of a real loss to not be able to come together in communal celebrations, because I think what so many of our folks enjoy is the ability to affirm that oneness and diversity. And so it's painful to not be able to come together and do that. So for us, the main thing is how to just keep that social connectivity at a time when physically we're separated, because like our Filipino community has many organizations and groups, youth group and others that are always holding meetings and gatherings, and all of that sort of been put on hold. So it's a matter of trying to keep that energy going and keep connected at a time when you can't get together and interact the way our congregation is used to doing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you. And Imam Tarif, I know very well that you have been involved with Muslim youth for so many years, like over 20 years. You've been working with Muslim college students at University of Maryland, but also elsewhere, also in your capacity with the Center for Muslim Life as well. If you can tell us about this particular demographic, young people, youth, what's on their minds right now? What would be the most effective ways for you to reach them and to really help them cope with this difficult time?
Absolutely. This is definitely it's a hardship on all of us, regardless of age, orientation, or background. It's hitting all of us. And young people, naturally, they want to be out. They want to explore the world and enjoy it. They want to experiment. And imagine college students, for example, who amongst them are those who are set to graduate this May, and suddenly they're being told there is no commencement. Imagine the shock. Imagine that feeling of grief, etc., and the anxiety that comes with it, not knowing what's going to happen tomorrow. So, similar to what we're doing with the larger community, we're trying to do the same with the younger community in terms of setting up these, virtual meetings and engagements so that we can hear from them, so that we can remind them that we're here for them to continue to deliver that care. And, part of the message that we're trying to send to young people and in our communications that they need to really, again, take advantage of this time to pause and reflect and to pay attention to themselves and to practice self-care, because many people are not practicing self-care. And in the absence of a structured schedule in their lives at a high school or at a university, they find themselves in a state of chaos. So we're reminding them to really try to establish some structure and routine in their lives, to get adequate sleep, to exercise, to find room and space to really pay attention to themselves and actually not get lost in the picture. Aside from the spiritual aspect of the experience. So those are some of the messages that we're trying to emphasize with young people, because we're seeing that they don't have necessarily that guidance in their lives to receive that, level of, the insight and the wisdom that they need in these times.
When I was looking at your bio also, Imam Tarif, it said that you lecture on issues or topics of theology, spirituality, and positive psychology. And the last two words really caught my attention, positive psychology. And if you can tell our listeners just quickly, what is really meant by this term positive psychology, and how is that connected to the concept of self-care that you just talked about right now?
Sure, this is a great question. Thank you so much. So traditional psychology focused on the deficiencies of human beings, the ailments and the pathologies, and looking at what's wrong and trying to, quote unquote, fix people. Positive psychology essentially is a discipline that allows us to connect with our strengths and gifts and to cultivate those that we can go from normal to actually flourishing in our lives. So, and it blends right into spirituality, because all of our spiritual traditions are trying to connect us to the deep resources and the strengths that God embedded in us to cultivate those. And I would say in these particular times, I would emphasize the gift of resilience. God gave us the strength internally and the resilience to overcome difficulties, challenges that we don't believe in ourselves. And when people are able to practice that and to remind themselves that they can get through things, that they're okay right now, to practice things like gratitude and compassion even towards oneself, the growth is incredible. So that's what the focus of the field is. And as I said, it interconnects with faith and religion.
Absolutely. This is wonderful. I would love to learn more about this, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners would love to as well, especially during this difficult time. We need that the most. Let me now shift the discussion to another very important topic, which I know is dear and near to all our hearts, which is interfaith. It is true that we can draw on our own faith traditions, and we should during these difficult times. But it's also true that we can learn so much from our brothers and sisters in other faith traditions as well. Rabbi Julie, I met you through the Sisterhood of Salaam Shalom, and that's how we became best friends. It's an honor and a pleasure indeed. What did you feel are some of the lessons or insights or coping strategies you were able to gain from your interfaith work?
Friends like you. The support and the love of our sisterhood and our very active WhatsApp group. And the sharing of spiritual resources, whether it's a poem from Islam or whether it's a picture of a flower that one of our sisters, a picture they took when they were on a walk, the kind of caring and understanding and inspiration that we share with each other. All of our hearts are open to learning from each other and growing with each other. And that is very, very important in my life.
Absolutely, and mine too. I'm very grateful for this sisterhood, for this great interfaith community that I'm part of. Definitely, it's a blessing, especially in this difficult time. And Father Bill, I know that you've been involved in interfaith work for many, many years with Imam Muhammad Bashar Arafat, and your involvement with the Center for Exchange of Civilizations and Al-Bashir Center and other capacities. What did you feel was the value of this kind of interfaith work, and how does that help us in this difficult time in particular?
Well, this has become one of the most important parts of my own ministry, and it has helped my own spiritual growth immensely. I think first of all, what we learn from each other and sharing the different experiences of our own traditions is tremendous. But I think that the world is facing a crisis which puts a challenge before the world's main religions, and I think especially the Abrahamic traditions, in which, in the spirit of when Pope Francis met with the Grand Imam of El Azhar, and they put a document out on human solidarity, recognizing that human diversity, including religious diversity, is part of the divine plan. And I think in a special way, the world's religions need to come together in the face of the divisions racking our world to show the true oneness of God, and consequently the oneness of the human race, and to find ways to practically show leadership in helping people see our diversity as a strength, and to overcome the divisions that are causing the conflicts in our world. And I think that's a particular challenge for the world's religious leadership. And I think that's what we need to more and more address.
Absolutely. And I would like to focus specifically on this point and expand on it in the remaining time of this program right after this commercial break. Stay tuned, please.
Are you going to start a restaurant or grocery store soon? Do you need floor plans and designs? Call Naji Abood at 734-744-9796. Do you want to buy kitchen and restaurant equipment at discount prices? Call Naji Abood now, 734-744-9796. New Concept Products and Design, the trademark of kitchen equipment. 5% discount on all purchases of $75,000 or more. New Concept Products and Design, new location, 31185 Schoolcraft in Livonia. Learn more at www.newconceptproducts.com. Call Naji Abood, 734-744-9796.
مركز طب رهاب للعلاج الطبيعي بإدارة الدكتور محمد فرح حسين، أخصائي العلاج الطبيعي بخبرة أكثر من 13 عاماً. طب رهاب يقدم خدمات العلاج الطبيعي وإعادة التأهيل، ويضم مجموعة من أفضل أخصائي التشخيص الدقيق للحالات المرضية، مع خبرة عالية في التعامل مع الحالات التي تحتاج إلى إعادة تأهيل وعناية خاصة بعد العمليات والكسور. طب رهاب يستقبل كل الحالات المتعلقة بألم الرقبة، الظهر، المفاصل، شلل الوجه، الانزلاق الغضروفي، عرق النساء، الحوادث وإصابات العمل. خبيرات في المعالجة النسائية لخصوصيات تامة للسيدات. عندما تبحثون عن رعاية متميزة اقصدوا توب ريهاب للعلاج الطبيعي الواقع على 15001 ميشيغان افنيو، وللمواعيد اتصلوا على 313-846-0555. That's 846-0555.
Life is a nonprofit charity that's provided humanitarian aid and development to people and communities for over 25 years, regardless of race, color, religion, or cultural background. When disaster occurs here or around the world, Life for Relief and Development rushes in to provide food, medical aid, and shelter to those in need. Please help improve these efforts. Make your tax-deductible donation to Life now at lifeusa.org or call 248-424-7493.
إلي ساعة عم بستناك مشان نروح نتغدى بالشام.
الشام؟
إيه بالشام ومو بالشام.
شلون صارت هي؟
بدل ما نروح نتغدى بالشام
إيه
جابوا لنا الأكلات الشامية الطيبة لعنا لهم.
وشلون بقى؟
هذا مطعم دماس عم يعمل كل الأكلات الشامية الطيبة هون.
وطيبة؟
طيبة كتير.
شرفوا نتغدى سوا بمطعم دماس.
الأكل الشامي الأصيل فقط بدمسكوزين. زوروهم على 28841 أورشارد ليك بفارمينغتون هيلز، ولطلباتكم اتصلوا على 248-987-4609. That's 248-987-4609. دمسكوزين and catering، جبنا لكم الشام لعندكم.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. This is your host, Dr. Sahar Khamis, and we're talking today about a very important and timely topic on everybody's mind: faith in a time of fear, spirituality, and dealing with the coronavirus crisis. And with me this morning discussing this important topic are three great spiritual leaders: Rabbi Julie Gordon, Imam Tarif Shraim, and Father William A. So we talked about the personal, we talked about the communal, the community level. Let's talk now about the world, which is really what Father Bill was indicating before we went to this commercial break. The world, what's happening in our world right now? When Bill Gates wrote the statement I read at the very beginning of the program, which is feeling that, every message has a spiritual lining, there's always a spiritual message. What kind of message can we possibly take from all of this that's happening around us? How can we help to understand the world in a better way and help to connect and make the world a better place based on our own insights and lessons from this difficult crisis? Rabbi Julie?
Father Bill really emphasized what's in my heart, which is we are joined together, and what we have as human beings, and I think what we're feeling now as human beings, is something that we need to focus on the positive. We've been focusing on either our own communities or our own political parties. Now's the time to really see and work together for the greater good. And I see that as a positive impetus for me as a person and also as a religious leader, is to reach out my hand to people and to communities that I did not know. It's very easy for us to stay in our little boxes. And I'm called now to see the world as one.
Especially when you're facing a common enemy. In this case, it's like the coronavirus pandemic, and we're all facing it as one. Hopefully that will help to minimize conflicts or help us with conflict resolution, understanding that we have one planet, one humanity, one God. And if we see the world like that, a lot of animosity and hatred and wars, I hope, can cease and stop. Father Bill, you want to expand a little bit on the wonderful point you were making before the break in terms of trying to get a message that can really be sent and shared with the rest of the world during this difficult time?
Yes, when the Imam Bashar and I, in our work, we've developed what we call the spiritual journey of transformative encounter, which is really what is the interfaith journey for us too. All of the programs we do, whether it's the youth conferences we put together here or the programs we've done in other countries, is to address the fact that the biggest challenge in having encountering the religious other is the fact that you can't have a real encounter if you're not open to being changed by the other. And what we have to do is overcome the fear that we're not out to change each other's faith. What we're out to do is have an encounter which changes each other's worldview of how our faith calls us to relate to each other and to the rest of the world. And it's changing worldviews that I think the world's religions and interfaith encounters is really about. To go beyond our own communities to the world communities, to the communities of other religious traditions, and to see the interconnectedness and the ways we have to come together out of obedience to God, out of fidelity to our own religious traditions. That I can't be a good Christian if I don't embrace my Islamic or Jewish brothers and sisters of the other communities of the world. That has to be part of being faithful to our own tradition.
This is beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you. And Imam Tarif, I want to ask you the same question. What is the message now for our world during this difficult time? And how can we understand our unity and our, connection with each other and with the rest of the world during this difficult time?
Sure. Once again, these trials and tribulations provide incredible, unprecedented perhaps opportunities to really experience some deeper connections. I mean, here we are. We're all on a global level. Each and every person is experiencing this very pain and this very uncertainty and this very fear. What an opportunity to really see the humanity of everyone and to be bound by a common experience. Oftentimes, even when we speak of interfaith, perhaps at the leadership level, we have a message, we have our connections with each other as brothers and sisters, as chaplains, as ministers, as imams. But perhaps the community hasn't experienced those encounters and those connections. Suddenly, in the midst of this upheaval, we're having a real opportunity for deeper connection. And I would say also here, for being vulnerable with each other, because my pain is your pain. Last night, a rabbi from our campus called me to just check on me. I called my the Christian pastor whom I call a brother, and my goodness, we're just vulnerable with each other and just opens up that intimacy, I think, within the midst of this larger struggle, allows us to really connect on a deeper level and experience that unity in a real, tangible way, not in a theoretical way. So I would say, again, an opportunity like no other to experience the depth and the profoundness of the connections and the diversity that God has intended us to experience in this life, because without it, we cannot grow. And what a time to remind ourselves we desperately need each other and to connect, because we're in it together.
Amen to that, definitely. Yeah, so we have just a few minutes left in our program, and I want to give every one of you an open mic just for 1 minute or so to just send a message, just a broad general message that you want to send to all our listeners, like a takeaway, an advice, a tip, anything that you want to share with our listeners this morning that they can really take away from this conversation. Rabbi Julie?
When my daughter graduated from Brandeis, Tom Friedman was the commencement speaker, and he ended by saying, "Call your mother." We need to pick up the phone, dial in to Zoom or FaceTime. We need to reach out. We need to listen to each other more than we need to speak. We need to be open to the wisdom that others can share with us. I really appreciate this conversation and the message of sharing that this crisis is providing us an opportunity to grow, and that we all have resources from our traditions, from our families, from our friends to help us through this very painful time, but a time that we have the internal resources to become stronger and more loving and more caring and wiser people.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Father Bill?
Yes, along the same lines, I think as we were discussing before, this is the time we're experiencing loss because of our separation from each other, and I think, and the people that we normally need for our worship and our support. I think this should be a time when we reaffirm and deepen our understanding of the need we have for each other, so that when we're allowed to come back together again, we not only affirm our need and for our local community or local congregation, but see that need extends beyond our local community to include our need for people in other traditions and the wider community, so that we can begin to make the connections that can really change and improve our world.
Amen to that, for sure. Thank you so much. And Imam Tarif?
I would say the beautiful time and reminder, again, to, that we're not walking by ourselves. That God is present, He's the source, He's responsible. It's not random. It's not chaos as we think it is. Even that virus is a soldier of God, so to speak. Invisible, yes, providing this chance, this opportunity to reflect deeply on who we are, where we're headed, about our priorities, our concerns. And I would say here, just praying to God in these times, praying deeply, profoundly, and also practicing humanity, practicing that compassion even with one's family, is Rabbi Julie beautifully said, call your mother. Pay attention to yourself. Practice self-care because anxiety can trigger unpleasant consequences within our own lives, within our own health. So I would say it's time to pause, pray, connect, practice humanity, and bring out of ourselves what is most beautiful. It's a time to really discover who we are and whether we can bring out the beautiful or the that which can break others. It's all contagious. Whatever we do right now and react with is contagious. It ripples out. It affects everyone, including ourselves.
Amen to that. That's for sure. I mean, the word contagious here, a lot of people say, oh my God, contagious. Like, here's contagious in a positive way rather than being contagious in a negative way, which is really very helpful and very insightful. I would say, just to wrap up this beautiful conversation, really the takeaways are connect. There are still so many different ways for us to connect effectively and productively with each other on the personal, community level, and hopefully the world level as well. The whole world should remain connected in peace and in love and in unity. And we should take this as an opportunity, not as a threat, and see it as a blessing, not as a curse, and work together to make the world a better place, a much better place. And in that capacity, I would love to thank the three of you very much for sharing your insight with our listeners today. But I also want to thank each and every one of you individually for the great work you're doing to better your community and to better the world as a whole. Thank you all so much.
Thank
you for the opportunity
Thank
to be here.
you.
Thank you all so much. And thanks so much to all our listeners everywhere. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay positive, and stay connected. We are all in this together, and we're all going to conquer it together. Have a blessed day, blessed week, blessed month, and blessed year. Thank you so much. Take care, and goodbye.